on to the third question. The third question will be posed first to Mr. Hopper. And sticking with the development theme for just a moment, the City Council has recently commissioned a citizenry study for vacant parcels of property in Dublin, among others, that have been referred to as opportunity sites. And we have discussed this evening the existing specific plan. Are you willing to seek modifications to existing zoning and the existing specific plan, and in what way? And in answering that, it would be helpful if you could share with the community if your position as to the specific mix of commercial, retail, and residential zoning you would endorse if there were changes.
It is a great question, and I think it gets to some of my earlier comments that we need to first understand the data, understand how many feet we have, and understand how that relates to a well-planned community, to the communities around us. When we first put the plan together, the Livermore outlet malls didn't exist. Well, you put a Livermore outlet mall across the street from us, it's going to affect Dublin in some way. And so we need to understand and remark our plans. I'm absolutely in favor of looking at all of our zoning. I am absolutely willing to look at changing zoning where possible. There's a lot of legal implications for that, and I've quite honestly had some differing opinions and differing points of view and differing accounts of what we truly can do internally, which we need to verify and vet and talk about. But I'm absolutely willing to do it in partnership with our developers because, again, as was mentioned, retail follows rooftops. We have the rooftops. Let's study what amount of retail is the right balance. We've also been presented, the City Council has, with several reports from developers, their reports, their numbers. And I've asked for it. We need to get to the bottom of, are they right or are they wrong? And we as a staff, we as a city, our staff needs to do that. We can't rely on what a developer gives us, but we need to validate that, and we need to understand truly what does the data tell us, because there are answers out there. We need to get to them. We're still waiting for that study to come back. They are, I think, reviewing it or doing their own study on that project, and we have to find out what that data looks like, and then revisit the plan, redo the plan in partnership with the community and the developers, and I'm absolutely committed to that, and I'll take any legal mechanisms that we can to do that.
Mr. Costello.
I still don't understand where we are talking about, which parcels that we're talking about, but I'll tell you anyway. Of the parcels that they're building now on the far end of Dublin, they shouldn't do that. They should leave it alone. We need as much space between us and Livermore as possible. If we keep building, we're gonna be right next door to the Livermore, and it's gonna be 20 miles of Dublin. That's all it's gonna be. I like open space. I love to watch the animals. I'm a big animal person. I like to go out and watch the ducks in the creek. I like to watch the squirrels, and now they're building where the squirrels are. I don't like that, but it's still happening. We got to slow down our growth, and it's still happening. If we keep going, we're going to be so much traffic in Dublin that my wheelchair is going to pass you up, but you know.
I think it does a lot of times already, Sean.
Yes. I've actually beaten the bus across the freeway when it goes to the mall. Because it cuts through the BART station, we shouldn't be going this fast in our traffic, and it does. And if we keep building, we're going to have even more of a problem.
Thank you, Mr. Costello. Mr. Hart.
Well, I think Sean illustrates a very valid point. We do have 4 areas, and there's probably more than that when we talk about infill projects in downtown Dublin. My concern with, and I'll look at anything, I'll look at any project, my background in law enforcement, 2 sides to every story. So I'll look at rezoning, I'll look at the opportunities, but I'm going to look at it from a perspective of, all right, what's in it for the city? All right, what impact is going to have to the city, what impact is going to have to the schools, what impact is going to have to the traffic. I've used this more than once, I'll use it again tonight. 4 o'clock in the afternoon, west, you're leaving Safeway at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, you're going to turn onto Amador Plaza to get to Dublin Boulevard, and it's a train wreck. You can't get out of the parking lot. And yet, it's approved, it's been approved, which I voted against, for 1,200 additional units in downtown Dublin. I think that's a problem. I think it's a serious, serious problem. So while I look at rezoning, of course I will, because there's opportunities potentially there, all right, to make it better. So we'll look at that. And I think we do need, as David mentioned, it's kind of evaluated. There are infill projects that some of you are already aware of that we did, with Habit and the burrito place. So that's an infill project. All right. Some would say though, what the heck were you guys thinking? I've heard this. What the hell you guys were thinking is now that parking lot is even worse. We need to make sure that there's enough infrastructure, enough traffic, enough ability to go from point A to point B. We just talked about pedestrian safety. But yet now, the point that Sean illustrates is that we've got cars, we've got traffic. I'm not so sure that rezoning to the benefit of the developers is the answer. I'm not afraid to tell the developers no, and they know that, all right? And I think, well, of course, we'll evaluate it, we'll look at it, try to see if we can make it better and improve the downtown area, the downtown flow, the pedestrian safety, but I'm not one that's going to jump to a conclusion and say it's a great thing just because of that development.
So Todd, you had multiple questions within the question, and one of them can you just repeat that quickly?
Sure.
So I don't take up too much of my time?
Are you willing to seek modifications to the existing zoning and a specific plan? And if so, in what way would you change it? And do you have a position as to the specific mix of commercial, residential, and retail?
Okay, thank you. Modifications to existing planning has its own challenges. The zoning is defined in that map. I almost want to do a Ross Perot moment for those of you who remember him and bring up the sign. But if you look, our zoning is already established for the east side of town and for parcels here that are vacant in the western side of town and in central Dublin. That being said, when there are opportunities to rezone, I think we should look at that. We have multiple areas where there are there's zoning with another layover zoning so that it can be changed. And I think that as opportunities come about, we need to work with our developers in order to try to make accommodations and changes. You saw that with the Wallace Ranch project. They heard loud and clear that podium housing over off of Silvera by Silvera Ranch was not wanted. The new developer came in and significantly changed and reduced the reduction of housing in that, and that was a strong message that we sent. I think that as we build additional units in the downtown area, the problem that we have with traffic is we have one corridor through Dublin, and we do not have another full-serving street, such as Dublin Boulevard, to take our connection east to west. So we must think out of the box when it comes to how we want to take this zoning and change it. What is, as David said, what does the data say? I'm not sure. We haven't studied it to change it in the effect that it would be a community-wide change and what those impacts are. But we do obviously need to seriously consider it and look at changing it as the opportunities arise.
Thank you. Candace, will have 1 minute of rebuttal. Mr. Hopper.
Yeah, we've talked about the legal implications and working with developers and the ability to say no to developers. And a developer came to us and wanted to build the residential component of his land and wanted to forego the retail component of his land. And I told him no. I voted no on that project because it didn't include the retail component. They came back to us. We told them no. They came back to us and said, we got it. We heard you. We will find a way to tie the retail component to the residential component. That hadn't been done before. We have examples in our community of projects that were built residential only, no retail. We have to work with them with specific agreements that are legally binding to make sure that we're protected to get our retail. That's one of the things I did in the first few months as being on the council. And one of the things I'll continue to push hard for is making sure that we get the retail that we need to have and have it done in legal in writing. And that's how I voted.
Mr. Costello.
As I was saying, I think that we ought to slow down, but the buildings that are vacant now should be used for other things instead of demolishing them and rebuilding them up again for a high rise or whatever. I just went by the carpet dealership over there on Golden Gate, and that'd be a perfect site for the Kaiser thing. I mean, you got perfect buildings. Why not having the doctor's offices there so they don't have to rebuild a thing, a new building? In order for us to save money, in order for us to make sure that the tax dollars that you give them, I'm not a part of them yet, but that I'm trying to be a part of.
Sorry, we have to keep the time.
As your mayor, I will challenge the status quo. I will challenge the city council to only approve projects that are right for the city, that are right for the community, that improve the quality of life for all of us in this city. We've got traffic issues. We've got obviously all those issues we've talked about already thus far. It cannot continue. We've got to make sure if we're going to rezone something, what is in it, what's going to benefit the community, what's going to benefit us that drive down the street every single day. No one's talking about that. And you know, as a candidate for mayor, I'm here to tell you, developers are going to have to pull their own weight. They're going to have to convince us, all right, as a council, convince me as a council, as your mayor, to make it better for us in the city, because right now, that's not exactly what's happening. Thank you.
Mr. LeBron.
I think one of the things that we have to understand is we're lumping all developers in together. There's residential developers, there's retail, and there's commercial. And you can ask a development that has the opportunity to have retail and housing together to combine it. However, what we are seeing in a lot of areas that are vacant is strictly retail or commercial. And so what we need to do is continue to work with these developers to bring these projects into our community. We can't keep saying that housing is absolutely has an impact on our community, absolutely. But if we tie them together, we're hiding behind the fact that what we see and we need to get developed is commercial and retail as well. So what we need to do is work with the developers, particularly the residential developers, so that we can either manage that growth that's coming in, so that we can balance it with our residential and our commercial development that we are not residential, our commercial and our retail, so that we can continue to grow more balanced.